Hi everyone, Scott from Tilly the Lad here. Today I wanted to perform a general overview and review of the Xbox Series S as a piece of hardware that is coming up on 3 years old. I want to evaluate what I believe are its biggest strengths and weaknesses. In putting together my sketch and outline for this project, I realized that this is a fairly complex topic with a lot of moving parts, so I hope you'll bear with me. And I of course look forward to comments and disagreements to the extent that they'll be there regarding any points I bring up. With all that said, I hope you go on to enjoy the rest of this video. In November 2020, PlayStation and Xbox launched their 9th generation video game consoles. Both brands released two versions of said consoles, but they approached that in different ways. On the PlayStation side, the two PS5s are largely identical. One comes with a disc drive and therefore accepts physical media and launched at an initial price of $500 US, and the other is an all-digital machine that is $100 cheaper. Xbox pursued a different approach. The Series X is the more premium product. It retails for $500 US and is on par with the PS5 in terms of raw power under the hood. The Series S, meanwhile, is a more affordable option. It is another all-digital machine, but is also not as powerful as its 9th generation colleagues. The flip side to that is this is what allowed Xbox to target a more aggressive price point, bringing it $200 below the Series X and standard PS5. The Series S approach, if we can call it that, remains an interesting choice, but has it paid off for Xbox? How does this little guy stack up nearly 3 years later? This is what I hope to, at least partially, answer today as we vibe check the Series S. Let's start with a slightly deeper dive into price. The Series S, what I may also call the S going forward, retails for $300 US. I have what I believe are accurate price points for some other major regions on screen now. This is an impressive target which brings the console in line with the standard Nintendo Switch and $50 below the Switch OLED. In 2023, Xbox released a carbon black variant of the S. This comes with increased storage capacity and retails for $350 US. Regardless of the model, this is a more affordable entry point into current gen gaming. The machine plays all the same games that release on its 9th generation counterparts, while also being $200 cheaper than the Series X and standard PS5 and $100 cheaper than the all-digital PS5. Additionally, the console often goes on sale, so it's very possible to pick one up for below retail. GamePass can be a great complement to that value proposition depending on who you are. It's a relatively affordable way to experience some of the biggest releases in the industry. This is a service similar in nature to something like Netflix or Disney+. Consumers pay a monthly fee, currently I believe it's $11 to $17 US depending on the tier, to access a library of hundreds of games. First-party titles almost always release on the service day one, although sometimes Xbox will pull a cheeky maneuver where they charge an additional fee to those who want to experience certain titles before official release. Usually these games will arrive on Game Pass a few days to a week after this early access period. This is exactly what happened with Bethesda's latest release, Starfield. I am not subscribed to Game Pass, so I can't speak to its benefits and drawbacks that much. I game on other platforms as well, and I also prefer having more ownership over the games that I play. So the value proposition was never there for me personally, though it should be noted that many others sing its praises. It currently has around 25 million subscribers across console and PC. The Series S's more affordable price point and seemingly attractive value proposition does come with compromises. This is most evident with the machine's specifications or specs. As noted in the introduction section, it is less powerful than the Series X and PS5. It has less RAM, teraflops, and depending on the variant, storage. What this means in more practical terms is that certain games, especially the higher budget and higher profile ones, might run at lower frame rates, so 30 frames a second as opposed to 60, or more likely lower resolutions, so 1080 or 1440p as opposed to 4K. The system also lacks a physical disk drive. This means that you can really only purchase games from the Microsoft Store onboard the console. You can't get deals from third-party retailers or buy used games at cheaper prices from places like GameStop or more local mom-and-pop shops. The caveat here is that I think certain storefronts sell digital codes for games. I think I've seen this on Amazon and Newegg, and maybe they can offer sales, but I personally haven't seen that. There is a more major source of anxiety with the Series S's lower powered specs. Will there come a time during this current console generation when the S can no longer keep up with the Series X and PS5? This anxiety manifested just this year with the release of the critically acclaimed CRPG Baldur's Gate 3. This is a phenomenal video game that is in the running for Game of the Year in a year that is stacked with high-profile, quality releases. These include The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, the remake of Resident Evil 4, Street Fighter 6, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Starfield. The game released on PC in August and PlayStation in September. Notably, it has yet to come to Xbox. Larian Studios, the developer and publisher for Baldur's Gate 3, noted that it had issues making the Xbox version due to the Series S's relatively underpowered hardware. Specifically, they had trouble getting split-screen co-op to work on the machine. This was a huge problem because Microsoft requires every game to have feature parity between the Series X and S versions. The game in question cannot release on the platform if something like split-screen co-op works just fine on the X, but not the S. This put Xbox in the unfortunate position of inadvertently giving its rival PlayStation timed console exclusivity for a Game of the Year caliber title. Xbox eventually made the decision to make an exception for this specific game. They dropped the split-screen co-op feature for the Series S. With this roadblock out of the way, the game is now set to release on the platform sometime this year. I think this was the right decision since that feature, while cool, is by no means core to Baldur's Gate 3. Series S owners will still get to play one of the best games of the year and experience co-op online, but it does suck a little bit that they won't be able to partake in local couch co-op with friends. The concern I have is, will this become more of the norm as this console generation progresses? Will the Series S continue missing out on features that its more powerful counterparts can handle? As long as those features remain peripheral, then I think we're okay. Another more major downside to the Series S, depending on the variant, is its low storage capacity. The base white model comes with 512 gigabytes of internal storage. A good chunk of that is used for the console's operating system, leaving the user with around 360 gigabytes of usable storage. That is a meager number for the current gaming landscape, where games routinely clock in at over 50 gigabytes in size, some of them even over 100 gigabytes. The only way users can expand that storage is through a proprietary SSD card that costs a pretty penny. The 512 gigabyte card, the smallest of the three options, is priced at $90 US. The 1 terabyte version is $150, and the 2 terabyte one is a staggering $280. You can buy more traditional hard drives or SSDs, but the problem here is that the Series X/S optimized games, so most of the newest releases, will not run off them. Xbox heard this criticism and they sort of addressed it. As mentioned previously, just this year they released a new carbon black model of the Series S that comes with a terabyte of onboard storage. This is much better, but it does cost $350 US. This brings it on par with the Switch OLED, and it's only $50 under the more powerful and capable all-digital PlayStation 5. We've been hammering home some of the drawbacks for a hot minute now, so let's get back to some positives. The Series S's physical size gives it versatility. It's the smallest Xbox ever made. It is therefore low profile and will fit into pretty much any setup. It's not pocketable, but it is certainly backpackable, giving it a moderate degree of portability. In addition, users can also purchase a portable monitor that turns the console into a gaming laptop type machine. This can prove useful if your living situation is such that you don't always have access to a TV or standalone monitor. Maybe someone else in the house wants to watch the game or their favorite show. Maybe you live in a college dorm or military barrack. I can see this being a useful option for these kinds of scenarios. To go off the size point, this is going to be largely moot and irrelevant for the vast majority of you watching at home, but in my humble opinion, I think the Series S is the best looking of all the current gen systems. The Series X is fine, but nothing special. It's muted and doesn't catch one's eye in a setup. As for the PS5, at the very least, I'll say that I respect its look. It has a large and in-charge vibe. It's meant to be a statement. It sticks out, especially with its white fins that sort of resemble a popped collar. Some folks love it, but others don't. Let's just say it's not for me. The Series S, by contrast, is an adorably small machine. To borrow words from Bob at the Wolf Den, it's just a little guy. I like the mini holes on the top and bottom of the system and the hello from Seattle on the back. I think the black grille on the front, which is the main exit point for heat from the fan, contrasts nicely with the white body. The chassis has a nice matte finish and, in my experience, has been fairly dust and fingerprint resistant. The more budget-friendly price point and relatively small size of the Series S could, in theory at least, make it an attractive secondary or tertiary console, perhaps a companion console if that's preferable terminology, for a user invested in the Nintendo and/or PlayStation ecosystem. I'm not sure if that is a goal that Xbox hopes to achieve with this console, but it makes sense in my head. I said in theory because it's hard to tell if this is actually happening in practice. Microsoft isn't fully forthcoming with their sales data. I can provide my own personal experience as an anecdote. The Nintendo Switch is my platform of choice, and my Series S does fulfill that more secondary position, if you can call it that. I use it as an entry point to experience Xbox console exclusives such as Halo Infinite. It's not the best game I know, but I still enjoy it from time to time. And Hi-Fi Rush, one of my favorite games on the platform. I also get use out of it for third-party titles that run better on it than the Switch, such as Sonic Frontiers and Overwatch. Additionally, per GamesIndustry.biz, Xbox recently revealed that 48% of Series S players are new to the platform. When all is said and done, nearly 3 years into its life, I think the Series S passes the vibe check. It does have its drawbacks, of course. The storage capacity, depending on the model, is far below what is required of current gaming trends. Its underpowered hardware has also gotten it into trouble a few times now. But at the end of the day, this here is a budget-friendly, versatile, and competent machine that routinely punches above its weight. I can't help but root for this little guy, and I hope it can continue to keep up as this console generation marches on. Thank you everyone for watching, and until next time, take care.